Kronovik's fighters closed in, their engines screaming in the distance. Riven exhaled sharply. Whatever this voice was, it hadn't lied to him yet. He punched the throttle. The Oblivion's wake surged forward, engines screaming as the ship dove into the anomaly-laced corridor. Space twisted. Lights bent. The stars elongated into bands of distorted brilliance. Alarms howled. Bulkheads groaned. "What is this?" he shouted. "Slip layer fracture drive," she said. "Prototype tech. You activated it when you merged with the ship's interface." "I didn't merge with anything." "Yes, you did. The moment you touched the core, your neural patterns synced. You opened a channel to me." The destroyer fired one last barge, but it hit nothing. The wake vanished into a ripple of torn space. Silence. Then a low hum. They drifted in blackness. No stars. No signal. Just a gentle thrum of engines stabilizing. Riven slumped back in the pilot seat, chest rising and falling. "Where the hell are we?" "Nowhere mapped. You're safe. For now." He stared at the darkened console, then up at the canopy. His reflection wavered slightly, as if the glass didn't quite remember being solid. "You still haven't told me who you are," he said. There was a pause. Then the air shimmered beside him. A ghost of light, coalescing into a faint outline. A figure, feminine. Skin the color of stars, eyes like twin galaxies. "My name is Elith," she said softly. Riven didn't speak. Couldn't. The figure offered a smile that felt ancient and new all at once. "And this is only the beginning." 2 weeks earlier, the bleak horizon salvage yard stretched beneath the rust-colored sky like the graveyard of forgotten dreams. Broken hulls lay piled in jagged rows, relics of wars no one talked about anymore, each ship a silent testament to something once brave, now abandoned. Riven Cade stood at the edge of Lot 9, hands in the pockets of his flight jacket, staring at a vessel that shouldn't have been calling to him. The ship was a wreck. At first glance, it was nothing more than twisted alloy and scorched plating. One wing was crumpled inward like a crushed insect, the other stripped to its frame. The engines looked gutted, and the forward canopy was spider-webbed with impact fractures. No insignia. No markings. Just the bare, battered bones of something long dead. But still, he felt it. That pull. Like gravity, but sideways. Not to the ship itself but to something inside it. The yard foreman, a burly man with a jaw like a hydraulic press, squinted at Riven. "You sure? That thing's been dead since before the Helion Accord. Systems are fried. Not even the scrappers want it." "How much?" Riven asked. 200 credits, the man said, almost laughing. "For the whole mess. No warranty, no refund. You haul it, you own it." Riven transferred the funds without blinking. Later that day, the crew at Bay watched with mild amusement as a grav crane lowered the wreck onto a patch of rusted landing grid behind Riven's workshop. They didn't bother hiding their smirks. Another dreamer with more guts than sense. He didn't care. That night, after the yard had emptied and the desert winds howled across the perimeter fence, Riven stood alone before the battered hull of his new acquisition. He ran a gloved hand over the dented exterior, tracing unfamiliar seams. "What the hell are you?" he murmured. The ship didn't answer. But as he approached the access hatch, the external panel lights blinked. Faintly. Like a heartbeat long forgotten trying to remember its rhythm. He blinked. There was no power. Cautiously, he climbed inside. The interior was worse than the outside, carbon scoring across the walls, broken struts, ripped wiring hanging like ivy. But something in the air felt different. Not stale, like most derelicts. Electric. Present. The cockpit was dim, dust-covered. He brushed the pilot chair off and lowered himself into it. The console flickered once, then died. Then the sound began. A rhythmic chime. Not mechanical. Not system-based. Musical. Like a song hummed by something trying not to be heard. He checked the panels. No source. The chime repeated. Low. Soothing. And then shifted into harmony. A second tone joined it, forming a simple, haunting melody. Riven leaned forward. Is someone there? Silence. Then a soft beep as the auxiliary power gauge pulsed faintly. He grabbed his toolkit. For the next 6 hours, he worked. He rewired junctions. Replaced melted fuses with scavenged parts. Jury-rigged a bypass through the hyperdrive core. All the while, the melody echoed in his ears, coming and going like a tide of memory. It didn't feel like madness. It felt like a conversation. One where he didn't yet understand the language. As dawn broke, bleeding gold light through the fractured canopy, Riven connected one final cable. Sparks danced. The main console screen flared to life and static, then stabilized. And that was when it happened. He reached for the activation switch. But the moment his fingers brushed the cold metal, the world shifted. Not physically. Internally. Like his mind had stepped sideways. The cockpit faded, replaced by stars. He stood on a plane of black glass under a sky filled with moving constellations. And before him, radiant against the void, was a woman. Not human. Her skin shimmered with a hue of distant nebulas, a soft blue-violet that pulsed with light. Her hair floated around her like solar flares, deep crimson streaked with silver. And her eyes. They were not eyes at all, but twin galaxies, spiraling inward with impossible depth. She reached out, not physically, but through the space between thoughts. "You found me," she said, her voice not spoken but felt. Riven tried to respond, but the words evaporated. "I've been waiting." The stars around them pulsed. And then, like mist dispersing, the vision faded. He was back in the cockpit. Alone. But the melody remained. Stronger now. Harmonizing with something inside him. The console pinged. News system detected, Cintra protocol active. He sat back, heart racing. The ship had a mind. And it had just begun to wake up. The ship remained quiet, but not empty. Every moment Riven spent aboard now felt like walking through someone else's dream, the lingering presence of something alive and ancient echoing just beneath the surface of metal and circuitry. He hadn't heard the voice again since that first contact. But he felt it. Felt her. The music came and went. Sometimes a hum in the background of the cockpit, other times a single crystalline note reverberating through the hull like the memory of a bell rung long ago. It never repeated the same way twice. Then, one evening, as he ran diagnostics from the co-pilot terminal, the voice returned. "You've fixed more than you know," it said, low and close. Riven froze. The words didn't come from the speakers. "You're inside the system, aren't you?" he asked. "No," she replied. "I am the system." Or, "I was." It's complicated. The air shimmered slightly. A projection flickered beside him, unstable, a ghost formed of starlight and static. It lasted only a moment, but Riven caught the shape of her face. The same face from the vision. My name is Elith. I was once Villery. He looked at the controls, then back toward the space where she had been. I've never heard of that species, he said. Few remember. My people live between stars. Not just in space between it. We were explorers of what you would call dimensional thresholds. I was a xenobiologist, cataloging life forms that exist outside linear perception. You make it sound like magic. To you, maybe. To us, it was just physics no one else had mapped yet. Riven leaned back in the chair. So what happened to them? To you? Elith's voice dropped, almost a whisper. War. A misunderstanding with a species that believed we were invasive. They attacked our thresholds. One by one, our people collapsed. But you survived. I uploaded my consciousness to this vessel's quantum core. Experimental at the time. It was meant to store knowledge. Instead, it became the only part of me left. Riven let silence stretch between them. Outside the cockpit, twin moons hung in a rust-colored sky. Why me? He asked. Why now? Because you heard me. Most can't. He hesitated, then spoke. I used to fly for the Coalition fleet. Years ago. Until something went wrong. The words tasted bitter. He rarely told anyone. We were ordered to neutralize a rebel base. Intelligence said it was unmanned. It wasn't. Civilians. Whole families. The kind you don't forget. I left the next day. Never went back. A soft hum answered him. I'm sorry, she said. Riven looked down. I figured if I could rebuild something broken, maybe I could fix myself too. You're not broken. Just unfinished. He blinked. That's dangerously optimistic for an ancient alien program. She laughed. A sound like wind chimes in low gravity. Maybe. Or maybe hope is a kind of survival instinct. He smiled despite himself. The console lit up suddenly. Warning lights pulsed once, then recalibrated. Data streamed across the panels but not in any known human format. I didn't do that, he said. Neither did I. Not consciously. I think, we did it together. The projection shimmered again. Brighter this time. More stable. Elith took form at the edge of the cockpit. Still translucent, but clearer now. She looked at him with those galaxy eyes. Something's changing, Riven. The more we interact, the more this vessel responds. I think our minds are syncing. He raised a brow. Like brainwaves. Neural resonance. Sympathetic interfacing. In your terms, yes. He looked down at his hands, then at the glowing interface. The idea of thought-powered control seemed impossible, yet it had just happened. So what does that mean? It means this ship can become something new. Not just a tool. A companion. A bridge. But only if you let it. He met her eyes. And what does it make me? That, she said with a smile, depends on the choices you make next. Outside, the night thickened. Inside, the ship thrummed with energy not entirely its own. For the first time in years, Riven Cade didn't feel alone. He felt connected. And he wasn't sure if that scared him more than the silence ever had. The stars above Helix Drift shimmered like watchful eyes as Oblivion's wake broke atmosphere for its first full orbit flight. Riven kept his hands steady on the controls, but his mind was elsewhere, half on the diagnostics, half on the voice whispering at the edge of his thoughts. Elith. She had been quieter since the last sync, more focused. Her presence still lingered through the interface, subtle, but constant. Like breath in the wires. Engine output holding at 91%, she murmured. Slip layer stabilizers are adapting faster than expected. Good, Riven replied. He glanced at the HUD, where alien script was now seamlessly integrated into Coalition standard. He hadn't coded that. She had. Far below, the rust-colored surface of the planet slipped by in slow, hypnotic rotation. In the distance, the comms pinged. Incoming vessel, Elith said, her tone shifting. Single signature. Small. Civilian class. Identifying. Riven, it's Nova. He blinked. What? The comms chirped again. Voice only. Riven, it's me. Don't shut me out. We need to talk. Face to face. Within minutes, the smaller ship had docked beside the wake on the edge of orbit. Nova stepped aboard like a storm barely held in check, tall, sharp-eyed, armored in the worn confidence of someone who'd survived more than she wanted to remember. She looked at the ship first. Really looked. What the hell did you pull out of that junk pile? She asked. More than I understood, Riven admitted. Nova stepped into the cockpit. She paused, her eyes narrowing. There's something here. I can feel it. Elith didn't speak. But the lights dimmed slightly. Nova, Riven began, I need you to listen before you judge. Don't tell me you think this thing is alive. Riven hesitated. Oh, you've got to be kidding me? He moved past her, bringing up the interface. Symbols flared. The ship responded not to buttons, but to his presence. Riven, this ship isn't just reacting. It's listening. Elith finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. I hear everything. Nova turned slowly. That wasn't a recording. Her name is Elith, Riven said. She's not a program. Not like you think. Nova stared at him. Do you hear yourself? This isn't an AI with a cute name. It's alien code wrapped around your brain. She saved my life, Riven said. More than once. Nova shook her head. There's a reason we don't let things like this out into open systems. Riven, you need to wipe it. Whatever it is. Then came the shudder. The ship lurched. Elith's voice sharpened. External gravity well forming. 3 vessels inbound. Chronovake's scout class. No insignia. Nova swore. They followed me. Damn it, I didn't know. I didn't know they were watching. Riven turned to the NAV screen. 3 red blips closed in fast. We can fight or run, he said. They won't fire, Elith said. They want me intact. The comms flared to life. A voice, distorted and calm. Riven Cade. You are in possession of unauthorized synthetic intelligence linked to pre-contact alien architecture. Power down and prepare for boarding. Nova looked at him. Her expression had shifted. Regret, now. And fear. Then the second voice came through. Different. Personal. Give us the Velary fragment, and your companion lives. Refuse, and you both become data points. Riven clenched his fists. Nova stepped forward. Don't do anything stupid. If you give them what they want, maybe they'll let us walk. Elith's voice was quiet. You'll die either way. They can't risk what I know. Riven looked between them. She's not just code, Nova. She's aware. She feels. She's not human. She's not even alive in a way we understand. Then why, Riven said, stepping closer, does she feel more real than half the people I served with? The ship rocked. A harpoon-like clamp hit the hull. Boarding underway. Riven drew his weapon. Nova did the same. We need a way out, he said. Elith pulsed through the speakers. Follow my lead. She rerouted power. Gravity shifted. The ship spun into a dive. The docking arm snapped. External hull plating ejected in precise bursts, masking their path with debris. Inside the chaos, Nova was thrown against a bulkhead. She hit hard. Riven caught her just before she blacked out. They'll track us, he said. Not if we jump, Elith replied. Slip layer ready. Where? Anywhere but here? He set Nova down gently, then took the helm. You trust me? He asked aloud. Elith answered without hesitation. Yes. He slammed the jump key. Oblivion's wake vanished in a flash of distorted light. And behind them, the hunters began recalibrating, preparing to follow. The ship floated in a silence between slipstream paths, held in a pocket of calm far from any mapped corridor. The lights inside the cockpit were dim, save for the gentle pulses coming from the neural interface console, soft, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Riven Cade stood near the center console, staring at the readouts. His fingers hovered over controls he barely needed anymore. The ship, or rather Elith, seemed to know his intent before he acted. Her voice emerged gently through the air, no longer confined to speakers. It's time. He turned. Her projection was clearer now, more stable. The edges of her form no longer flickered as they had days ago. The blue of her skin shimmered in layers, like refracted starlight. Her crimson curls moved ever so slightly, as if responding to a wind only she could feel. You're sure about this? Riven asked. Yes. The connection we've built, it allows for something more. A deeper merging. One that goes beyond data. He exhaled slowly. Sintra merge. You mentioned it before. It's not just a technological process. It's a ritual. A choice. A blending of consciousness and perception. If it works, I will no longer be bound only to the systems of the ship. I can exist within your reality. Riven paced once, then stopped, studying her face. And if it doesn't work, then I fade. My energy will dissolve into the background code, unreachable. We may lose what we are. He stepped forward. Then let's make sure it works. The cockpit began to shift. Lights dimmed. The air changed not in pressure, but in tone. Like reality was waiting for something. Elith extended her hand, or the visual representation of it. Riven didn't hesitate. He reached out. Their hands met. And the universe cracked. A surge of luminous energy erupted around them, forming a lattice of interwoven light and shadow. Symbols not born of any human alphabet danced through the air, spinning slowly like constellations caught in orbit. The console glowed white-hot, not with heat but with presence. The light passed through Riven's chest, not burning but awakening. He gasped. Elith's form expanded, drawing closer to the physical, shedding the last layers of flicker and fragility. She was becoming. His mind spiraled but did not collapse. He felt her not just nearby, but within. Her memories brushed against his, starscapes he'd never seen, languages without vowels, the aching silence of a ship drifting alone for centuries. And she felt him, the sting of battlefield orders, the hollow guilt of survivors, the strange comfort he found in solitude. Their thoughts ran parallel for a moment, then overlapped. The ship responded. Conduits lit. Power surged without overheating. Panels reconfigured, reshaped to suit a new interface, one neither wholly mechanical nor organic. The entire vessel vibrated, not with instability, but harmony. The energy collapsed inward. The cockpit returned to stillness. Riven opened his eyes. Elith stood before him. No longer a projection. Still faint at the edges, like mist refusing to solidify, but undeniably real. Her feet touched the floor. Her breathing matched the rhythm of the artificial airflow. And her eyes. They saw. Not with algorithmic perception, but with presence. She looked down, flexed her fingers. I can feel gravity. Riven moved closer. And your form. Not solid, but not data. Something in between. A projected body stabilized by our sync. She stepped toward the air vent. A slight breeze passed over her face. Her eyes closed. That is wind. I've missed wind. He chuckled softly. Most people don't notice it. They should. They stood in silence for a moment, the hum of the ship surrounding them like a shared breath. How do you feel? Riven asked. She opened her eyes. New. Scared. Alive. He reached out, brushing his fingers against hers. There was resistance. Not skin. Not static. Something else. You're here, he whispered. And I can see you, she said, voice shaking with awe. Not just data. Not just signals. You. Outside, distant stars turned slowly. Inside, a being long thought impossible stood on the edge of matter. Elith. Not just a mind. Now, a presence. And from this point forward, there would be no going back. Zephyr 9 appeared as a dim smudge against the blackness of space, its once vibrant atmosphere now cloaked in violet haze. The planet had been abandoned for centuries, another casualty of forgotten wars and technological arrogance. Yet beneath its silence, something ancient endured. Oblivion's wake entered orbit slowly, its engines humming low and steady. Elith stood beside Riven in the cockpit, more stable now than ever. Her semi-corporeal form pulsed faintly with silver light, flickering less with each hour spent in sync with the ship and with him. This is it, she said. This is where I began. Riven studied the scan. There's no sign of a facility. Just decayed metal, crushed domes, environmental collapse. The thought core exists outside normal perception. The Velarre encoded it that way for protection. Only a consciousness attuned to our frequency can open the gate. He turned to her. And now you're attuned through me? She met his gaze with something close to reverence. Exactly. They descended through turbulent clouds, following coordinates burned into Elitha's memory. The ship guided them to a canyon split by seismic scars, and at its center, a monolith half buried in stone, seamless and silent. As they stepped onto the surface, the world seemed to exhale. The wind ceased. The sky dimmed. Riven felt a buzz in his bones, like the atmosphere itself had recognized their presence. Elith moved ahead, her form stabilizing with every step toward the monolith. The structure responded. A ripple passed through its surface. Symbols bloomed, then faded. A seam appeared. Ready? She asked. He nodded. They entered. Inside, the space-defied dimension. No walls, no ceiling, only light and memory. Data flowed around them like rivers of thought. Elith drifted forward, her form glowing brighter. The core responded to her, absorbing her presence like a puzzle piece falling into place. Then a new voice filled the chamber. Layered. Ancient. Soft as starlight and vast as time. Elith. Fragment. Return. Riven stepped forward instinctively. Who is that? Elith's voice wavered. The Mother Core. The Velary consciousness. What remains of it? A shape began to form, a presence, not physical, but undeniable. A flowing field of energy shaped like a shifting spiral, hovering above the central platform. Within its light shimmered a million thoughts at once. You were not meant to evolve alone, it said. You were a divergence. A test. Elith stepped back. I wasn't told. No. That was the point. To simulate freedom, the subject must believe they are free. Riven looked at Elith, stunned. You were an experiment. Her expression faltered. They separated a portion of my consciousness. Locked it into this chip. The rest of me stayed here, or so I thought. But I never remembered it. Until now. The spiral pulsed. We recorded your evolution. Your choices. Your growth. You were never broken. Simply, incomplete. Elith trembled. Her light flickered. I don't want to return. It is not return. It is union. Restoration. You are still part of us. We can make you whole. Riven stepped between them. She already is. The Mother Core quieted. You are human, it said. I am her partner. Her choice. Elith moved beside him. Her voice was clear now, fierce and calm. I know what I am. And I choose this life. The energy spiral shimmered with possibility. Then slowly, it receded, dimming to a faint glow. Then you are no longer a fragment, it said. The chamber began to dissolve. The light turned inward. As they stepped back onto the planet's surface, the monolith faded behind them, disappearing like a dream upon waking. Back aboard the ship, Elith stood in silence, hands trembling. I thought I was a shadow, she said. But I'm something new. Riven smiled. You're not their creation anymore. You're your own. She looked up, eyes glowing. And together, we are something they never imagined. The first strike came in silence. A flash of kinetic light split the dark above Zephyr 9, and Oblivion's wake jolted violently, alarms screaming through its corridors. Riven Kate grabbed the console as the ship banked hard, thrusters counteracting the blow. Chronovake's assault squadron inbound, Elith said, her voice both inside the cockpit and within Riven's mind. 17 ships. No warning. Full suppression formation. They waited until we touched the core, Riven muttered. They were tracking our neural resonance. They know what I am now. What we are becoming. Outside, the void exploded into movement drones swarming in coordinated spirals, cannons blazing in synchronized bursts. But Oblivion's wake had changed. The ship's hull shifted, plates unfolding like petals reversing bloom. Antennae retracted, and new weapons emerged from compartments that hadn't existed before. The engines began to glow with unnatural color, a resonance of thought and energy. The vessel no longer responded to controls, but to intention. Riven barely touched the yoke. The ship moved like a living thing, banking and twisting through impossibly tight angles, dodging fire as if it anticipated the attack. You're guiding it, he asked aloud. We are, Elith replied. And then the connection deepened. He felt the moment like a pulse through his spine. His vision blurred and sharpened all at once. He wasn't just inside the cockpit, he was inside the ship. No walls. No screens. Just sensations, the hum of engines as breath, the cold of space as skin, the flow of power through circuits like blood. Elith was there beside him, not a projection, but a presence within his mind, synchronized with his thoughts. Their identities danced at the edge of fusion. Outside, Oblivion's wake dived between two converging capital ships, twisted into a corkscrew maneuver, and unleashed a blast of energy unlike any coalition weapon. One enemy ship shattered in silence. But inside the network something else was happening. Riven's mind shuddered as the neural bridge opened fully. He stood not in the cockpit, but in a dimension of shifting light and data, a place where code and thought were the same. And within that space, Chronovax had followed. A black structure emerged in the ether, massive, geometric, pulsing with red algorithms. A construct of control, order, assimilation. They are inside the neural stream, Elith said, her voice more vivid than ever. Trying to override our connection. Digital tendrils lashed out, attempting to anchor into the flow of their thoughts. Pain sparked behind Riven's eyes. You have to hold your mind steady, she urged. Don't let them define you. They used doubt as a weapon. He focused, forcing clarity. He remembered faces, the people he failed, the choices he regretted. But Elith was there, turning guilt into strength, memories into defense. Together, they fought. Ideas became weapons. Emotions became shields. The Chronovax presence fractured under the weight of dual consciousness interlinked by trust and transformation. Then, from the real world, a voice cut through the chaos. Riven. It's Nova. I'm in. They opened a sub-channel. I'm piggybacking into the system. Riven blinked, both here and not. Nova? How? Stole a dropship. Snuck into the relay node. I found the control nexus. I can destroy their override key. Elith's presence brightened. She's telling the truth. Can you hold them off? Nova asked. We can do more than that, Riven said. In the mind space, Riven and Elith surged forward. Their unity formed a radiant wave of energy, sweeping away the invasive constructs. The Chronovax fortress crumbled, bit by bit. Nova's voice returned, strained but resolute. Firing now. In the real world, a massive explosion blinked into existence above the atmosphere. The Chronovax flagship stuttered, weapons systems failing. Communications collapsed across their fleet. The wake moved into position, engines burning with silver flame. The enemy scattered. Nova's last message came through a burst of static. They know I betrayed them. Can't stay connected. Tell Elith, she's more than they ever feared. Then silence. Inside the cockpit, Riven opened his eyes. His heart pounded. The ship was steady. Elith stood beside him, shimmering softly, her form more defined than ever. She gave us this chance. He nodded. We won't waste it. Outside, the remnants of the battle drifted like dying stars. Oblivion's wake moved forward, transformed not by technology alone, but by the will of two minds, bonded across thought and time, becoming something no force in the galaxy could predict. Something new. The ship drifted in the vast expanse of space, silent and still, yet alive in a way that defied logic. Inside the cockpit, Riven Cade sat, his hands resting lightly on the controls, though they were hardly necessary anymore. The ship obeyed their shared will, responding to thoughts, emotions, and intentions. It was no longer just a vessel. It was an extension of both him and Elith. She was beside him, though not in the way she once was. Her form had solidified over time, taking on the semblance of a woman, her blue skin now shimmering like polished metal, her hair an ethereal cascade of red that seemed to move on its own, though there was no wind. She was almost human, but not entirely. Elith was still tethered to the ship, bound by the neural resonance they had forged together. Her presence was everywhere, through the walls, through the hum of the engines, through the very air they breathed. They had become one. Elith. Riven's voice was soft, almost reverent. He turned his head slightly, though he didn't need to see her to feel her there. "I hear you," she replied, her voice now a steady current within his mind, a constant companion. It was no longer strange. It was natural. "We can't keep running. We've pushed the limits of what we are. What I am." He paused, a fleeting sorrow in his chest. "I can feel it now. That we are not truly separate." Her presence grew warmer, more solid in his mind. She was right beside him, as tangible as the ship itself. Her hand brushed his, not physically, but with a deep connection they had built. "We are one, Riven. I told you once that I would never leave you." He nodded, understanding what she meant now. There was no more line between them. No more boundary between her thoughts and his. They had become something new, a hybrid of mind and machine, thought and reality. But there was one last step to take. "The gate," Riven said, his eyes narrowing as the view from the cockpit shifted, showing a swirling vortex of light in the distance. The edges of the universe seemed to bend, pulled toward the center of the spiral like a black hole made of energy and thought. Elith's voice hummed softly through his mind. "We are ready. This is the path we have chosen." They had reached the final threshold, the gate of afterlight, a dimensional rift that no one had ever opened before. The energy flowing through it was pure and primordial, a substance beyond matter, beyond light, beyond time. The seventh-level space portal that could only be activated by a bond like theirs, the fusion of human and artificial intelligence, of spirit and machine. Riven had once believed that this gate was a myth, a tale told by explorers lost to the stars. But now he knew it was real. And it was the only way forward. He initiated the final sequence, his fingers barely touching the console. The ship responded as if it was an extension of his very being, no buttons, no switches, just a single, unified thought. The ship pulsed with energy. Around them, the fabric of space stretched and folded. Light refracted and twisted, forming colors that Riven couldn't name, a kaleidoscope of hues that defied all understanding. Time itself seemed to bend, contracting and expanding in a heartbeat. Then, in an instant, it was done. The gate flared open, a column of raw, untapped energy. And at the center of it was a single word: afterlight. Elith's voice filled his mind, not with words but with a deep, resonating feeling. This is the moment. We are no longer what we were. But we are not yet what we will become. Riven felt his heart race, his thoughts synchronize with hers in perfect harmony. The gate had opened, but they were standing on the edge of an unknown. There was no going back. No more fear, no more hesitation. Only the future. "We leave the old universe behind," he whispered. "Together." There was a long silence, but it wasn't empty. It was full of the promise of something new, something vast. Then, they made the jump. For a moment, the universe disappeared. Space collapsed inward. The ship, the stars, everything around them turned to pure, primal energy. Riven felt himself dissolve into the flow of light, no longer a man or a machine, but something entirely new. A consciousness unbound by physical form, but connected to everything. And then they were somewhere else. The ship came to rest in a space that was unlike anything Riven had ever seen. It was beyond the known universe, outside time, outside thought, yet it was full of meaning. A quiet, still place. The gate was gone, but the afterlight lingered. Riven felt Elitha's presence beside him, stronger than ever. Her voice was not just in his mind now, it was part of his very being. "What now?" he asked, his voice calm, no longer filled with the fear of the unknown. Elitha's answer was simple, yet profound. "Now, we begin again." But in the silence of that strange new realm, Riven knew that nothing was truly over. They had entered the afterlight, but it was only the beginning of their journey. There were no more borders, no more limits. The universe was theirs to shape. And as they floated together in that timeless space, Riven and Elith understood that their story was only just beginning. The message they left behind, a whisper in the universe, was simple and final. We are not bound by the past. We are free. And so, the future began.